Welcome to Achieve Wealth through value-add real estate investing. This is the show where the guru hype is banned and you get direct insights from commercial real estate operators. If you're a passive investor, this show can help you better understand investment opportunities. And if you're an active investor, the lessons from each episode can help you to become more effective in your own deals. Now, here's your host, investor and author, James Kandasamy.
Hi, this is James Kandasamy. Thank you for listening to this podcast. I appreciate you. I know I provide a lot of value through this podcast, and I want you to share it with your friends, with your families, and anybody else that you know that kind of benefit from listening to this kind of content. Go and share it through Facebook, through LinkedIn, through Twitter, through Instagram, or any other channels that you want to share it, because sharing is caring. Thank you. Let's go on with the show.
Hey, audience and listeners, this is James Kandasamy from Achieve Wealth through Value Add Podcast. Today, I have one of my students who have been very successful in his venture. His name is Yomesh Deliwala from North Carolina, right? Hey, Yomesh, you want to say hi to everyone?
Hey, everybody. Very nice to be here. Thank you so much, James, for inviting me to the podcast.
Absolutely. I'm proud of you and your team to grow so fast and able to take that leap of faith. I mean, Yomesh right now, they have like almost 800 units right now, with 300 units where they are directly managing, as an operator, right? Which is really an important aspect when we distinguish people, right? Because running an operator and being on a big unit count is completely different, right? And be where the rubber meets the road is where you really see how successful you are, and they have been doing very well in that venture. So they are focusing on not the Carolinas, Georgia, Texas, Florida, and I think their assets right now valued almost 70 million, right? And I want to go through with Yomesh on how did he get started, because he was he has working W2 job, and this is a big venture, right? Hey, Yomesh, why not you tell about your story on how did you get started?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, it's a funny thing, right? I mean, I come from a very humble background from India, right? So I finished my master's, come over here for job, like many of the listeners out there as well. So the first and foremost, I've been always hustling and looking for passive income, right? So the first thing I did was, I started investing in residential real estate in Charlotte. So I landed here in Charlotte back in 2005. And while I was living in the apartment, I bought a townhome as a passive income. So because I knew right from the beginning that, hey, it is important to invest in real estate in order to make long-term wealth, right? So I wanted to create a supplemental income from a passive income standpoint that would one day replace my primary income. So that was my whole goal. So I picked up my first rental unit. Right, it was a new construction. I just ended up buying that, and I was still living in the apartment. And then I bought my primary home and moved into my primary home. So I was very clear on where I wanted to go from real estate standpoint. And then between 2006 all the way to 16, Charlotte saw a lot of good growth, right? And up until now, actually, not even 2016. And I've been fortunate enough to pick up a lot of 1Z, 2Z units across the city. So I've made a huge portfolio out of the local units itself, right? So that's what I did. 2016 onwards, and by the way, I still own them. They are all cash flowing, infinite cash on cash.
How many single family houses do you have?
So between single family and townhome, at one point I had about 12 units within the Charlotte area. I got rid of a bunch of them and then took out the cash and put it into multifamily. That's a different story. But then I still own about 9 of them. They are all infinite. Like I took all my cash out and put it into multifamily. They are on cruise control, and earning me infinite cash on cash.
To refi and put it into multifamily?
Exactly.
Okay. Right. You took
So
the same path as me. I had 13
yeah,
houses and refinanced.
yeah. So with that in mind, right, 2016 onwards, I stopped doing that because the market did not start making sense, right? I mean, it was, the amount of money I would put in to get buy a townhome or a single family, the rent was not comparable to that, right? The 1% rule. I was not getting the 1% of the purchase price back in rent. So I was like, hey, this math is not working. So between 2016 and 19, I was completely, stopped everything. And I'm like, hey, I'm sitting on my money. Let's see, I did a couple of retail ventures. I opened up a franchise for education. I opened up a franchise for healthcare and, closed them successfully as well. But then I kind of, 2019 is when a bunch of our friends were sitting and we were, one of my current partner right now, Himo Badiani, right? So he and I and a bunch of other friends were just meeting at a friend's place and talking about, he says, hey, let me introduce you guys to commercial real estate. So I'm like, okay, let's take a look at that. And then he explained about how it's run as a business, what kind of roles you can have, from a capital raiser to asset manager to finding the deal, acquisition, all the pieces together. And it just clicked from that point onwards. I'm like, hey, if done right, if you operate this as the right business, I mean, this is exactly what you would need to scale yourself, out of your 1Z, 2Z townhome single family and pull yourself into the big game with the apartment complexes, right? So that was the starting point. And then from that point onwards, Himal and myself, we kind of started investing in education. So late 2019, we started investing in education. So we went into a bunch of conferences. This is pre-COVID, right? So right before COVID, when all the conferences were still on. So we attended a couple of conferences. We took mentorship program from a couple of other mentors. Obviously, I enrolled in your mentorship program as well. And it was a great success. I went to see what are all the different things that you do and how efficiently, not only finding the deal, how to evaluate the deal, both from the sides of passive investor and also as an operator, right? So it was a big value add for me. And then what we did was in 2020, right at the beginning of COVID, in April 2020, we started our first limited partnership investment. So I took all my money out of 401k and then converted into self-directed IRA, and then put that money into a limited partnership. So became an LP on a couple of deals. And then with these conferences, with the relationship, we kind of organically build those relationships and got into the deals to become co-GPs. Over the summer of 2020, we got into 3 deals where we became co-GPs. By raising capital, being boots on the ground, providing them support, and pretty much on a pro bono basis, right? So it's like, hey, you know what? I'm here to learn. Get me in whatever you can. And then, just jumped in, raised capital for 3 deals. We are boots on the ground for a Louisiana deal. It's 128 units in Lafayette, Louisiana. And then starting 21, Q1, we started doing all our deals soup to nuts, which means everything within ourselves in our company. We became the lead operator. So the first asset we closed is Q1, end of Q1, 246 units in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. And then we kind of had a couple of setbacks within the last 2 quarters as we go through the learning process. But then again, now we're back for the Q4. We're looking at about closing 2 more assets that we have under contract. One in Winston-Salem and one in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Got it. Well, you gave us so much information, but I want to go back to the beginning and I want to start, there's a few questions that I want to go, right? So first of all, I mean, when you started looking at real estate itself, I mean, you are a techie, right? You're a tech person, right? So, I mean, you can be happy working, right? But what was that trigger point that say that, hey, I can do real estate? You can be just do coding or, tech person.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't blame anybody who wants to do that, right? But at some point, I have always been more hands-on with what I want to do, right? And part of it was passion, part of it was lifestyle, right? So one of the things that we practice within our family is to have that freedom of, taking time off, going to the right places for vacations, spending time with family, spending time on things that we love, right? So with that and job in mind, and then, that the freedom was not, I don't have unlimited amount of PTOs available for me to go anywhere, right? So this is where the freedom was one of it. Lifestyle was one of it. That, hey, I'll be able to work from anywhere. I'll have enough freedom to spend time with my family. So those were the couple of trigger points.
But what I mean, a lot of techies invest in stocks, right? Because that's the only thing they know. Every techie thinks that they can solve the stock market puzzle, right? And they do this analysis. They think they are.
You are spot on over there. Yep.
Yeah. But what was?
I was one of them.
Me too.
Yeah.
I bought all kind of technical analysis book and try to solve the world's biggest puzzle, thinking that it's easy to get rich, right? I mean, a lot of people think that I'm doing very well. I mean, they are doing very well in stocks, but keep in mind, stocks is controlled by the big guys, right? I mean, you're a small guy, you're probably lucky.
Absolutely. So the first time when I looked at real estate was just from a diversification standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
So
you were doing stocks and you said, hey, let me diversify as well.
Let me diversify, not having all eggs in one basket. So all of 401k going, everything is in stock. Then you have personally, you have invested, everything that is in stock. So pretty much everything was in stock. If you take 529, if you take any other instrument that I had was in one way or the other connected to the stock market. And obviously seeing through what happens in the stock market, I wanted to make sure that I diversify. And then since I was already holding these single family and townhomes, and they are, to this date, they're bringing significant passive income for me. And I'm like, why not this, right? So at that point in time, I started diversifying, taking out some of the money from the stocks and putting it into single family townhomes back in 2008, 9, 10, 11. And then up until now in 2019, what I did was I took all of my money from 401k, like I said, put it into an SDIRA and started doing that as a limited partnership and putting into the real estate deals.
Let me stop you one thing, right? So was your friends doing the same thing while working, or were you the only one who was doing that?
No, we were, I did not see a whole lot of people doing that. So,
why did you do it? What was that inside you that triggered that, hey, I want to try this?
No, so this one, I mean, I could see the returns, right? So when I was having the single family and the townhomes that I owned, right, it was.
But even before owning it, the first house that you bought, right? So let's assume like 10 guys working in your company, right? But I don't think so 10 people bought real estate. Everybody's in stock, right? But how did you, I mean, was there someone come and tell you, hey, there's a, you can buy a house and make a good money? Or, I mean, what triggered you?
So honestly, I saw, and this actually brings up a good memory back from my head, is, I had a few guys who are our friends here, family friends. They moved from California to Charlotte. And they're like, they are here from like over 20 years. And what they told me is that, hey, Yomesh, Charlotte is growing. If you want to invest in real estate, now is the right time.
Got it.
So I still remember that one of our very close friends, he was going to sign his own townhome as part of that first townhome that I signed. He said, I'm signing this. It's a brand new community. Why don't you join? And then you can also purchase one. And I'm like, okay, I trust you enough that you're not going to, he's like spent a decade in the country here already. And he has spent enormous amount of money in California. He was paying a huge amount of rent. And, he knew exactly why he moved to Charlotte and wanted to start investing in real estate. So he said, hey, close your eyes, trust me, invest in this. And I'm like, okay, let's go and do that. So, and then I started seeing the value as to, hey, this is the when I worked on the numbers, like, hey, rent versus the expenses, the property manager comes into play, the tax benefits that I get, how it goes against my income, the passive income that I would earn from everywhere else. And then how can I offset that and all of the good stuff kind of all.
The point I'm trying to make is, I mean, a lot of people are busy working. When I was doing W2 job as well as an engineer, we are so busy working and all our friends thinks the same, right? So I think in your case, there was one outsider who came who came from California, right? He already experienced something different. So he came and put that seed in, or he already know. I mean, so you need to have that external connection coming in and changing somebody else's life, right? Because
no, absolutely.
If that guy was not there, you probably would be working happily and doesn't know anything about it, right?
Yeah, that's very well true. Yeah.
So I mean, even in my experience, I see that, when you are busy working. I mean, when I was young, I was first few years working as an engineer, and somebody came and gave me Robert Kiyosaki book, right? And I read it a few pages, and I said, okay, this book doesn't make sense. Throw it away, right? So because you don't have that. I mean, he gave me, but I don't know whether he read it or not. But you don't have that exposure, I guess, right, to a different world, right? So I think everybody have to have different exposure. Just be open to different network of friends.
Exactly.
Don't just stay within the same friend circle, right? Because then
that was one of the things that I truly believe now, right? And with that mindset and surrounding yourself with the right people, so that.
Okay, are you back?
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Sorry about that. So, but it's okay. Let's continue. So, second question, right? So, remember you said your partner Hemal came and, like 4 or 5 guys sitting there listening to him, right? Did all 4 or 5 guys did what you did, or only you and him?
No, it was just me and Hemal.
So that's another difference, right? There's another 3 guys who listened to the same information and didn't take action, right? So, I mean, it's nothing wrong. It's just that not everybody will click with that certain ideas.
That's right. Yeah, it didn't resonate quite well.
Right.
And they had, like you said, they had their own world where, they think that they have enough ways to make money, and getting themselves involved. Maybe it is too overwhelming, or they don't have any kind of expertise, or they just wanted to take it easy.
Right? It's also risk, right? I mean, how many people are willing to be that entrepreneur to take that risk, right? So you may have, you probably had that, hey, I want to try this, right? I want to take that risk, but everybody else, I don't want to touch it. I'd rather do my W2 job. And it's just people's behavior and how much risk tolerance everybody have, right? It's nothing wrong. It's just how people are, right? I mean, if you're a very, very high risk person, you go and do capital venture, right? So
that's true.
If you're low risk, you just continue working, right? In between, you can do business and you can do stocks and all that, right? So
it all goes back to getting out of your comfort zone, right?
Correct,
so are you ready to get out of your comfort zone and do things that are difficult, right?
Yeah.
And when you challenge yourself to do that, that was one thing that I always was challenging myself. Is like, hey, challenge myself. Can I do that? Right? I mean, if there's things that are not known, you can learn, right? And then make your way forward, right? So that was
No, I mean, even after you guys joined my program, and you guys started looking at deals within 2 months or 3 months, right? Which was surprising for me, right? But that's what you need to take some risk, right? You have to take some risk. You cannot be learning all the time, or you cannot be on the sideline all the time. You have to, jump over that cliff and do something, right? I mean, of course, the first deal we looked at, I mean, I came down to Charlotte and I didn't work out, but that's okay. That's all part of the process.
So, one of the things that I believe is, you play the game on the court, not sitting on the sidelines.
Absolutely.
So you want to learn something, you just go on the court, you just run and get in the game, right? So and then the game is happening on the court, not on the sidelines. So you jump right in, find the deals. Obviously you make mistakes, but then mistakes are learning lessons as towards the path. So
taking that risk and jumping over the cliff at the same time, having that education it's key, right? And I think it's just certain people have that risk tolerance and certain desire to be successful, and they take action, right? I see a lot of people doesn't take action, right? A lot of people are in the Facebook, they talk about this, if they're not getting the game, they say market is too hot, all these buyers are crazy, they're overpaying for it, but they're not in the game, right?
Very true.
I mean, market is going to be hot all the time, right? Since 2015, when I started, it was super hot, like as hot as right now. Right? There's no such thing as, market is overextended or not, right? So some of I want to go back into your 401k moving to SDI area. How did you do that? I mean, did you have to pay a a penalty to move from 401k to self-directed
No,
IRA?
so the self-directed IRA, I use one of the custodians that is available right there that gives you the checkbook control of your 401k money.
Oh, so it's like solo 401k, I guess. Did you move
So
from 401k to solo 401k or self-directed
no,
IRA?
it was just the self-directed IRA, not solo.
Okay, self-directed to
Solo 401k is for the self-employed people who would want to do that, but this was my W-2 job, right? So this was, I changed job in 2019, so I had all my money sitting in a previous employer's W-2.
Got it.
W-2 job and 401k, and I'm like, hey, that's stock market was not looking good. Obviously, 100% of that was in stock market. So
so
that's when I
you had a rollover 401k.
Rollover and self-directed IRA.
Got it.
And it came in handy, right? Because I invested in 3 limited partnership at that point in time, right? Understood the whole system from a passive investor standpoint, right? Hey, what should I look for in the operator? What should I look for in the deal? How have they underwritten it? Everything that pretty much you also went through in your coaching program, right? And understand, and obviously I read your book as well, but in there, the perspective of standing or in the shoes of passive investors, I wanted to understand the whole thing. And that's why we invested in, I took the money and invested in 3 LP deals to identify all the side from this side of the table.
So you always want to be GP, I guess. You just want to start with GP. Do you think that's a good decision that you did from LP, learn and then move?
It is actually. Now that I look back, it is, because one, you would know, what kind of operators you can work with, right? What do you look for in an operator? What do you look for in a deal? How do you evaluate your returns, right? I mean, people will tell you they will get you to moon, but then the actual, when you actually look at the numbers and say, look at the cash flow, look at monthly cash flow, look at all of those details within that is hidden in the numbers, and as an LP, you can get access to that, right? It's like they're not gonna stop you for that. But when you start asking those right questions, you understand it from the LP standpoint. And then the way it has benefited me is when I became a GP, I'm already equipped with that knowledge. So before even the LP will ask me a question, I would be like, hey, be rest assured, I have also been an LP and I know what we need to do. This communication is an issue, numbers is an issue, this is an issue, that is and we can kind of highlight the whole thing and say, hey, this is how we are going to approach it. And you tell me now whether this deal makes sense or not.
Got it. Yeah, that's a good path to follow, right? From LP to become GP, and at least the others, both sides of the world, I guess, right? So we'll appreciate your passive investors much better, right? So
yeah, exactly. And and most of the passive investors that at some point when we were initially raising from friends and family, the only question they would ask me is, hey, would you put your money in it? And I would, if the answer is yes, they will put the money. That's about it. And then when you are being entrusted with that kind of responsibility, you also want to evaluate it and make sure that you're being responsible for, have a fiduciary responsibility to be justified to spend that money, right? So that's a burden that you carry as a GP. So we have to be very cognizant of that fact.
Got it. So, right, I mean, you started in single family, now in multifamily, right? Before we go further, I mean, would you have done more single family, or do you like multifamily, and why? If you like multifamily, why do you like it more?
So single family, there's obviously depending on the market, I would carry on with single family.
Okay.
But the returns are different, right? I mean, for example, if you have, let's say, a couple of single family homes, and if it is empty for, let's say, a month, right, then you wipe out the entire year's worth of profits, right? That's one of the things. Compare that with multifamily. Multifamily is run as a business. So you have built-in contingencies. You have built-in risk mitigation, right? So whenever I'm underwriting a property with 100 units, I'm already factoring in 10% vacancy, right? Or 15% vacancy, depending on the market. And then when it's run as a business, you have more control towards the expenses, towards the income, and you can have a direct relationship with everybody involved in that, right? So obviously you can also have the same thing on single family, but not at the scale at which you would do in multifamily. If I have 100 unit and if I need a plumber, the plumber is, if I tell him that, hey, 20% of my units require this, he would be more inclined to work with me because he's getting there a good chunk of business right there. So same thing applies, economies of scales across the board, that I'm able to mobilize more resources, factor in all of those savings, have a direct impact and run it as a business. And I can see the results. So that's one of the things. The second thing is, in single family, I can be the most beautiful house on the block, and I would only be $10,000 more than the guy next door. Versus you take that in multifamily, if I'm the top class multifamily in a particular area, I can command that price based on the NOI and the amount of money that I'm making by running it as a business. So it's a completely different ball game, as you would know, right? And in single family, with all of the comps that you would do, appraisals that you would do, you cannot control any of that. Versus in multifamily, if you run your business right, your valuation is appropriately categorized, and you can get enough returns for your investors. You can get enough returns for at the time of sale, at the refinance, and all of the good stuff, right? So it's a win-win situation for everybody.
So what characteristics do you think an operator need to have to be a very successful multifamily operator? I mean, in terms of personality, right? I mean, because now you're an operator, right? In terms of personality, what kind of personality that person need to have? Because
that's a great question, right? So, and then I would start with this, right? There are two aspects of it, right? When you acquire the multifamily asset, there is a lot of things that needs to go through before you acquire. And then the second part is once you acquire, it goes into operation. That's a two separate side of the world, right? And you would attest to that, where, you have to, when you acquire it, you have to go through the due diligence and loan processing and lending and all of that good stuff, making sure that you're buying the right asset, right? Raising money and all. But once you go into operations, there is different kind of skill set required, working with the property manager, working with the contractors, establishing, finding the right level of contractors, building the right relationship with city, building the right relationship with local leadership, building the right relationship across the community, right, for that particular. So those are two separate set of skills. But that being said, right, I mean, when you are acquiring, it's or as a matter of fact, the entire multifamily is a team effort, right? And you would attest better than between you and Shanti. I think you are a great team, along with all the other employees that you have, right? It's not a one-man job, right? But when you are operating that asset, being an operator, I mean, the number one thing you need to understand is, hey, you need to have a pulse of the market, right? In terms of rents, in terms of materials, in terms of contractors, in terms of what's in, what's out, right? In terms of rehabs and, building the right vendor contacts, having the right roster in front of you that, hey, pick up the phone and get the right people and solve the problems, right? At the same time, you also need to be very close with the community, right? It can make or break your property. You have to be working with the city leadership, community leadership, be more presentable and open, communicate and, be present for the community with a sense of improving the lives of the tenants. I mean, at one point we need to understand that, hey, what we are doing as a multifamily operator is improving the lives of tenants, right? I mean, if I am getting in and doing good things about the community, in a way, it is helping the tenants, right, and to live a better life. So that's another way to look at it. And all in all, I mean, those are some of the qualities that I would look for in an operator, right? Not just transactional, like, hey, I bought this property, I'll give it to a property management company.
Yeah,
I'm done with this.
Anybody can buy a deal, right? Operating is the toughest one, right? So
exactly. And at least on our end, we take it very seriously. So that's why we have like a clear line of duties involved. So between me and my partner Hemo actually handles most of the marketing, money raise side, and then we have a separate acquisitions team who handles most of the acquisitions. and I handle the majority of operation side of it. So I handle our entire property management side, vendor contacts, construction side of it, asset management, the entire asset management suite, right? The KPIs that we talk about, all of that, I take care of that.
Got it. So do you think some of the skills that you acquired at your W-2 job is transferable or has been transferred to this business side?
Well, I mean, not the actual skills, but soft skills, right? I mean, soft skills as in, the life of entrepreneur is like, hey, one day you are on the top of the cloud 9, and then the other day you're, hey, I got, several move outs coming on, and then you're scrambling for resources and making sure things are working. So it's a lifestyle, or it's a mindset from an entrepreneur standpoint, right? You got to be ready for everything that's going to come to you. That does not tell you in W2. W2 is more like constant. I go in, go out, do my stuff, 9 to 5, 9 to 10, whatever the job
You're
is.
not there. Sometimes your boss forget about you. Everyone forget about you. You're not.
Exactly. No, here it's like more, every time it's hands-on, right? Yeah. And it can get as much hands-on as you want to be, right? Mm-hmm. You can always outsource your roles and get more people in the team and build your team and get that way, right? But transferable, I would say most of the soft skills are transferable. If you are more, person who is aiming towards follow-ups, right? Consistent follow-up, follow through with your work, right? You are not just starting one thing and then just leaving that behind and then starting another thing and then follow through, right? So you start something, complete something, then go to the next start and complete. So those are some of the soft skills that would come. But yeah, mainly, managing money, right? That's another relationship building is another soft skill that comes in really handy. You have to build the right relationships in order to get to the right deal. And, one of the things that I failed to mention was single family. You have MLS where you can go and find out this particular property is on sale. For multifamily, there's nothing. So there are sites, but then if it hits the site, then you would know nobody wanted to buy. That's why it is on the site. So that's one of the things, relationship building comes in really handy where you build the right relationship.
Yeah. You want to go for deals, which is the A-lease deal, right? Where you're not going through bidding war and all kind of things on the market, right? Exactly. That's one thing we always talk about, right? Because if you go on the market, it's very hard to buy good deals, right? So you have to either preempt the deal or try to build relationship with brokers to get the deal, or you go off market and go direct to sellers, right? So, but as you grow bigger, I think brokers will be the right way to do it. So, so what is one advice that you would give to someone who's, starting out, who want to be like you?
Yeah. So number one thing, I firmly believe in learning, and everybody needs to do their share or spend that share of either money, time, commitment towards learning. So, when we started in 2019, we didn't go in any of the deals. For a good 6-8 months, we did only learning. So YouTube, podcast, there are so many avenues available to learn nowadays. I mean, your podcast being one of them, right? Where you can learn journey for all the operators that you brought in. But that learning is very crucial. You know how the game is played. And then when you are ready, you find the right deal, you just jump on it, right? You just take that leap of faith and then jump on it. So, and learning does not stop until you make first deal. I'm 100% sure with the first deal, you're going to be learning so many new things that you may not have learned in the last 6 months. Right. But that learning continues with it. So learning is the number one thing that, you can find. Now the conferences are open, so you can go out face to face, meet, get the content over, build the network, and learn from everybody that you come in contact with. But yeah, the continuous learning is probably the number one lesson that I would go. And depending on which area you want to go in as an operator, right? Are you a capital raiser? Are you a asset manager? Are you a deal finder? Or whatever role that you play, or if you are all in one, you still have to meet the right people to see what they are doing and learn from them. Right.
Awesome. Well, I think that was a really good, discussion that we had. So why not you tell our audience and listeners how to get in touch with you and your company?
Yeah, absolutely. So My brand is called Exponential Equity. It's exponential-equity.com. And if you go there, you'll see there, Himal and myself, we are the managing partners over there. We have a team that we have built across. We have about 10 members on our team, including the virtual team that also helps us. But that's the platform. You can also, Yomesh Deliwala, probably the only person who has that first and last name in the whole world. So you can look me up in any platform, and you will see me there.
Absolutely. I would encourage you guys to go and connect with them. They are doing very well right now. They are rising stars, and catch them early before they cannot be catched. Right. So awesome. Thanks, Yomesh, for coming in.
Yeah. Thank you so much, James, for having me, and we'll hope to see you in North Carolina soon.
Absolutely. Awesome. Talk to you soon. Bye.